Rich Cannibal ate his classmate, admits he would do it again, and was completely set free. Issei Sagawa also blamed the media's representation of women for turning him into a cannibal, specifically Grace Kelly. He says whenever he sees a beautiful woman, he fantasizes about eating them. He's originally from Japan, but he moved to Paris to study literature, and that's where he met Renee Hartvelt. He gained her trust first, befriended her, and then eventually killed and ate her. After he shot her, he said that he considered calling an ambulance, but then he admitted to authorities he thought, hang on, don't be stupid, and then just ate her instead. And here's the crazy part. He was found insane and unfit to stand trial, so he was sentenced to a Japanese mental institution. But because the charges in France were dropped, the court documents were sealed. Therefore, they couldn't be released to Japanese authorities. So he just got away with it.
People who gained real-life superpowers after an accident. In 1971, Edwin Robinson was in a severe car crash that made him completely blind and partially deaf. 9 years later, he ventured outside his home to rescue his pet chicken from the rain when he was suddenly struck by lightning. But due to the high-voltage blast from the lightning strike, he miraculously could see and hear perfectly fine again. During Adam Rayner's early life, he suffered from dwarfism, and at his tallest, he came in at 4.5 feet. But at the age of 21, he developed a tumor on his pituitary gland, which led him to grow to a staggering 7 feet 8 inches within a few years. This made him the only human to ever be classified as both a dwarf and a giant in the same lifetime. Rory Curtis got into a car accident that was so severe he fell into a coma for several days. Thankfully, he came out of it, and when he woke up, he could magically speak perfect French, even though he had only taken a few French lessons 12 years before the accident.
Disturbing facts that will ruin your day. 1980 and 2021 are as far apart as 1980 and 1939. Horned lizards squirt blood as a defense mechanism from their eyes. Locked-in syndrome is a medical condition where you can only move your eyes while the rest of your body is paralyzed. Basically, you can be trapped in a coma-like state and be aware of it. Doctors went into surgery to remove what they thought was a tumor. It turned out to be what looks like a pine tree growing in this man's lungs. Experts say it more likely came through aspiration rather than a seed growing inside of his lungs, but still crazy. There is potentially a haunted radio station in Russia that has been broadcasting since the 1980s, and nobody knows where it's coming from. It's mostly just buzzing noise with an occasional Russian voice transmission. More than 80 million bacteria can be exchanged during a 10-second kiss. Follow for more.
Can you imagine losing your child and then not knowing what happened for years? That's what so many families of John Wayne Gacy's victims went through. I partnered up with Peacock to tell you guys about Devil in Disguise, John Wayne Gacy. To be honest, this series doesn't retell the same story we've heard hundreds of times. It goes deeper. It focuses on the lives that were lost, the families affected, and the truth that took way too long to come out. What makes this series so different is how it gives space to the voices that were overlooked for years, making viewers understand how horrific this case really was. While watching it, I couldn't help but feel so much empathy for the families. I felt like I was literally in their shoes. This series is emotional, it's heavy, but it's told with so much care, and it finally puts the focus where it really belongs. If you're drawn to shows based on true crime that value storytelling, Devil in Disguise, John Wayne Gacy is so worth a watch. Now streaming only on Peacock.
She bit her nose off during a children's pantomime at Butlin's. Do you know how terrifying that is for those poor kids? It was April 2013 in Bognor in West Sussex at a Butlin's holiday camp. Now, if you don't know what Butlin's is, it's basically like a cheaper version of Centre Parks. It's like a family holiday camp where you can go and stay. There's accommodation and there's entertainment for your kids. So really frequently they will have entertainment in the evening. They set up chairs and they do like maybe a play or maybe some kind of dance or entertainment for the kids, and it's just a bit of light-hearted fun. On this particular day there was a pantomime of Jack and the Beanstalk, and 2 people were at this particular play, sort of like in the audience watching. There was Tina Love from Dartford in Kent and Julie MacDonald from Buckinghamshire, and they didn't know each other. They were both with like their individual families, and they ended up having an argument that should have honestly been like the most minor disagreement possible, but escalated into sheer horror. It was literally a disagreement about whose table was who. They were having some sort of argument about like one person had sat on a table and they were saying, well, that's our table. And then suddenly, unprovoked, out of nowhere, while this pantomime was going on, Tina launched at Julie and bit her nose off. Bear in mind there's like a crowd of 450 people, including a large majority of children watching. This was a total savage, brutal attack. She bites her nose off and then spits it onto the floor. Obviously there was blood everywhere, there was screaming. Julie was like screaming out in agony. I believe Julie also had her child there to witness this whole thing too. Now Julie was raced to the hospital and the nose was also taken to the hospital and she had to have it surgically sewn back on. I can't imagine the trauma of going through something like that and also witnessing something like that for all of those poor kids. Poor Julie said she was obviously scarred for life after this incident. This was such an unprovoked, violent attack. It was honestly sickening. Thankfully, Tina was arrested and charged. She was sentenced for this horrific crime and was given 6 years behind bars for wounding with intent.
People are leaving this museum with bruises, scratches, and nightmares, and one painting might be causing it. The Artemis fractal, painted by Bill Stoneham, is considered to be one of the most haunted paintings in the world. Zach Baggins from Ghost Adventures added it to his museum thinking that this would be a cool exhibit, but visitors are now experiencing physical and emotional reactions that are impossible to ignore. Here's the wildest part about it though, nobody seems to understand why this painting is actually considered haunted. Paranormal experts think that it might be a psychic amplifier, and the painter said that the painting has a living energy. That means that it can reflect and magnify the emotional and spiritual energy of anyone who looks at it. People look at it and they report fear, sudden sadness, even physical bruising and scratches, like the painting is reacting to them directly. When people visit the museum, they report fainting, crying, having nightmares, or coming out with bruises and scratches. And this isn't just an isolated incident. In the same museum, there's a doll named Peggy, and she's notorious for having paranormal activity. I'm gonna make a video about her after this. But like having both of these objects in the same space makes it feel like something dark is spreading through the rooms. Would you be brave enough to visit this museum, or do you think that all of this is just a publicity stunt? Let me know and follow for more.
After playing over 400 horror games, here are 3 that are actually terrifying. Also, number 2 and number 1 are completely free. I also have full playthroughs of all 3 of these games on my channel. And remember, this is just my opinion, fear is completely subjective. At number 3 we have Voyager 19. The whole game basically takes place on this old computer screen. We are flying through space in a one-man craft, and we're taking pictures and recording sounds of celestial bodies. Everything's fine until one of the planets you record has a heartbeat. For me, this was the scariest cosmic horror game I think I've ever played. At number 2, we have I Work as an Exorcist. Think of Five Nights at Freddy's, except it's 4 nights and it's ghosts at different locations. This game is actually so scary while you're figuring out how the ghosts work. And there's also a story here with a climactic final level. I can't believe this game is free. And number 1 for me is Ignited Entry. This is a narrative-driven horror game and the story is incredible. However, it's one level in this game that makes it so scary for me. You're walking through a pitch-black maze with something inside, and the only way you can know where it is you have to listen for this humming. I'm not doing it justice by explaining it, you gotta see it for yourself.
Here are some crazy things happening in the world right now that you probably miss. Investopedia put out a new study saying that the American dream now costs over $5 million over a lifetime. With over $1.6 million in retirement, $900,000 for buying new cars, that's dumb. 2 kids plus college, $876,000. Owning a home is nearly $1 million over the lifetime. And healthcare is $500,000, because of course. Feels good to be an American, doesn't it? Chuck Norris hiked a 10,000-foot mountain at 85 years old. You know what? That's actually not crazy. He's Chuck Norris, of course. Can't believe I put that in here. There was a baby born in Brazil holding the IUD from the mother in his hand. IUDs are 99% effective, so bro is just like, I'm a part of the 1%. Spotify just deleted 75 million AI-generated tracks on their platform. Leopard sharks in Australia have been observed having a threesome for the first time ever. And if anyone was wondering, it involved 2 males and a female. However, the threesome was, quote, over in minutes, lasting just 110 seconds, where the first male took 63 seconds and the second 47. So they took turns. How cute.
This is why you should always keep pictures of your parents. A little girl named Olivia who lived a very quiet life decided to check her homework assignments that were posted posted online. The teacher posted that they needed to write down their favorite memory with their family as well as bring a photograph. Olivia then writes about how her and her mom play dolls every night in the basement before bed and that she has a lot of fun doing so. She finishes her paragraph and then looks in her dad's drawer for a photograph of mom. She only found pictures of her mom from high school but decided to use it anyway. Olivia goes to bed and wakes up the next morning. Once she arrives at school, the teacher then says, let's start presenting our project. Then the teacher called Olivia's name to present. Olivia then begins to read about how her and her mom play dolls every night and then pulls out the photograph. As soon as Olivia pulled out the photograph, her teacher's face goes numb. She then asks Olivia if she can take a closer look at the photograph. She then recognized her mom as one of her previous students. Then the teacher asks, where did you get this photo? Olivia says, my dad keeps them in his drawer. The teacher, shocked, sits down Olivia and pulls out an old newspaper. The newspaper headline, local high school teen murdered, boyfriend gone missing. The teacher then looks at Olivia and says, your mom has been dead for 14 years.
This is the scary truth about Facebook. So there has been a theory about Facebook that they listen to all their users' conversations. But that is not a theory anymore, and it's actually confirmed that they do listen to all your conversations. Facebook actually admitted that they have been paying hundreds of outside contractors to collect and store audio clips of Facebook users. Facebook said they do this so they can understand what people like, so they can give them more ads that they are interested in. I feel like there has to be a better way to do this, other than spying on the people that are using your platform.
There's something so strange and unusual about giant pumpkins. Like, did you know that they make noises while they're growing? In the middle of the night, as they're expanding rapidly, farmers have reported that they've heard these pumpkins creak, groan, and even pop. And if a pumpkin absorbs too much water, it can burst open and explode with a loud bang. They can also crush things under their weight. You know, things like us. Or they'll collapse in on themselves. That's a big thing with like these pumpkin contests. A lot of these pumpkins get too big and they can't take their own weight. And they'll also sometimes unfortunately crush tiny animals. Another thing you probably haven't thought about is that they rot fast. And when they do, they turn into this giant, smelly, liquid mush. And these pumpkins attract swarms of insects and flies and rodents and wasps and mice. They're just nasty. And they're supposed to stop growing when you cut them from the vine, but sometimes when you do this, it still grows. It feels so like unnatural. These pumpkins are a different breed than your regular store-bought pumpkin, and if a human doesn't intervene, they can actually keep growing on their own. Now, the reason all these people put up with this nonsense is because big pumpkins make a lot of money. Some of the record-growing ones can win you thousands of dollars. And even the individual seeds, you can get like $850 for them. The world record heaviest big pumpkin weighed 2,700 pounds. And they can grow up to 50 pounds a day. But there was a scientist from Georgia Tech, and he said that theoretically, a pumpkin could grow up to 20,000 pounds. And like, to put that in perspective, that's the weight of an elephant. So yeah, I kind of find these a little terrifying. Let me know what you think and follow for more freaky.
Imagine if your parents kept you trapped in an endless childhood by never letting you leave the house and teaching you the wrong words to use, so you can never function in the outside world without them. They also tell you strange and disturbing stories, like your brother that you've never met who allegedly tried to leave. So your parents punished him by making him live on the other side of the fence that's around your house. Even though these are clearly tactics to keep you and your siblings obedient, for years you don't realize anything is wrong because it's all you've ever known. But what happens when you start questioning all your parents' rules? Or even worse, start trying to find ways to escape? Before I tell you the name of this movie, make sure to follow for more horror and movie content. This movie is called Dogtooth, and it's a 2009 Greek psychological drama.
Here are some scary facts that you probably didn't know until now. First up, no one is more prepared for the world to end than CNN. Yes, the news station. It has been reported that CNN has a pre-recorded broadcast from the 90s that they will premiere at the end of the world. Like, what do they know that we don't, that they're already prepared for it? Next up, the body cannot tell the difference between either of your eyes. So because of this, it's possible that if one of your eyes gets damaged, your immune system will attack the healthy eye, thus taking away your eyesight. To be honest, that sounds like a fucking nightmare. And lastly, we have the bite of the blue ring octopus. Now, a bite from one of these bad boys is pretty lethal. It's said that their venom can kill more than 20 humans in just a few minutes. Although that's scary in itself, it's very unlikely to happen. But if you are bit by one of these guys and are being administered CPR, it is highly likely that you will feel and know the CPR is happening, but you won't be able to move or respond. Holy fuck.
He filmed children using the restroom and got off to it. This is 38-year-old Siu Kan-sit. So this Sit guy worked at a high school in California, specifically the Beckman High School. And when he was working as a teacher, Siu hatched a plan. He decided that he was going to go into the bathrooms in the school, set up hidden cameras, and record all of the children as they used the restroom throughout the day. So that's exactly what he did. Starting in at least February of 2020, he went through those bathrooms and installed cameras. And from 2020 to 2023, he viewed and downloaded hundreds of photos and videos that he had captured with those hidden cameras, showing adults working at the school using the restroom, teenagers, and even children under the age of 12 years old. He was also the high school robotics team coach, and while the robotics team was traveling and competing in Texas, he even put a hidden camera in the bathroom of their hotel room and recorded his students in there. Now, eventually authorities discovered the cameras, got a search warrant, but what they found in the man's house was incredibly disturbing. On Siu's devices, they discovered dozens of images and videos depicting graphic CSAM. They also found a hard drive that he owned that contained 22 photographs and one video depicting hardcore CP, with several showing the abuse of a toddler. They also found another hard drive with 150 more images and 4 more videos showing CSAM. Now, he was eventually arrested, but he was only sentenced to 17 years in prison. That means that one day, this guy will be free to live his life amongst the general public. I have no empathy for people like this, and I believe that these charges should definitely land someone in prison for life, at minimum. I mean, how more disturbed can you get, filming hundreds of students and children and even fellow faculty members while they're the most vulnerable, using the restroom at school, and then downloading all of that stuff, saving it, revisiting it, creating a treasure box of some of the most disturbing images and videos one can imagine. And after all of this, after victimizing hundreds of individuals, he's only given 17 years in prison. I don't know about you, but this really pisses me off. If you want to join my fight to expose these people, consider checking out my other content where I expose these freaks and the networks that they belong to in depth. You can also listen to my show, The Conspiracy Files, on any podcast platform like Spotify or Apple Podcasts.
Terrifying facts you never knew. If your immune system ever found out that you have eyeballs, you would go blind. Which means right now your immune system has no clue that you can see. Because if it did, they would attack your eyeballs until you could no longer ever see. This is because your eyeballs have a protein in them called crystalline that doesn't exist anywhere else in your body. So if your immune system found out and checked them out, it would be like, something's wrong here. Studies show that most serial killers are born in November. Today's high school students have the same anxiety levels as insane asylum patients had in the 1950s. I'm not gonna lie to y'all, my anxiety might be up there too. There's a disease called fatal familial insomnia, where people suddenly one day lose their ability to fall asleep, which leads them to slowly go insane. They can't distinguish dreams from reality anymore and go into some type of paranoia. It becomes so severe that they eventually die. Those that make it to the final stage and don't die usually end up in a vegetated state, no longer conscious. And it can happen to any one of you. About 3,000 people go missing every year in the United States. The last execution by guillotine was in 1977. This was in France. And also that was the same year the first Star Wars movie came out. You are always 6 minutes away from death, but breathing resets the clock. In 2011, Anatoly Yakovlevich was arrested for having 12 dolls in his apartment. Only problem is, they weren't normal dolls. They were recently deceased little girls that had been dug up and dressed to be put on display. In 2012, a Burger King employee anonymously posted this to 4chan. It said, "This is the lettuce you eat at Burger King." It only took 20 minutes for people to track down the branch that he worked at, and he was fired. You really never know what people are doing to your food. H.H. Holmes was a serial killer who built a torture hotel in the 19th century. He had secret rooms with gas chambers, trap doors, and stairs that led to nowhere. He loved to play with his victims' minds. It was almost like a real-life Saw movie. There's a bridge in Scotland called the Overtoun Bridge, and for some reason, dogs keep jumping off of it at the same spot. Yeah, they just jump to their deaths. Experts can't figure out why either. Some people speculate it's a magnetic field or maybe a frequency that only they can hear, but others believe it's something supernatural. But whatever is making dogs jump off that bridge to their deaths is still to this day unexplained. Joe Matheny was an infamous serial killer who not only cooked his victims to eat for himself, but also made them into burgers, using their remains. He then sold them to unsuspecting customers from a roadside food stand. We really never know what we eating. I'm cooking all my food myself. That's why I don't eat over people's house. In 2021, a new homeowner was shocked to find a boarded up wall. When he ripped the boards off the wall, he discovered a hole. In that hole was a doll clutching a note. The note saying that she killed a family who lived there in the 1960s. Be honest, would you move out? In 1978, there was a pilot named Frederick Valentin. Him and his plane disappeared in Australia. His last communication was, Melbourne, that strange aircraft is hovering above me again. It is hovering and it is not an aircraft. This is a mugshot of William West and William West. Oh, and they're not related at all, but they were both sent to Leavenworth Prison at the exact same time in 1903. And after some confusion, the staff finally figured out they were two different people who had the exact same name and looked identical. This was said to be one of the main reasons why we now use fingerprints to identify somebody. There's biotech being developed as we speak that can make prisoners feel they are serving an 1,000-year sentence in a matter of 8 hours. That's horrifying. Imagine thinking you spent 1,000 years somewhere, and then when you wake up and snap out of it, you realize that it was only a couple hours. Do you know how crazy that is? Anyways, like this video if you want a part 2.